Now that's how it should be. Now that we got the steps finished, I'm moving on to our leaf springs. I bought these plates because the ones that were on here didn't work. At the time, the factory studs weren't long enough for how thick this leaf pack is. So I went with this grade 8 bolt that I got from the local machine shop. Fine and dandy, but they were just a touch too long, and I don't think they're gonna be as strong as these actual studs. So I got one in. We're gonna go ahead and pull that one out, get this one in, lock that spring down tight, and that should be much more secure. There's a very slight gap between the axle and the leaf spring, how it was. Just those fine details we're finishing up now finally. Go. Knocking projects out left and right on this thing. What should we move on to next? I'm gonna go ahead and do the rear axle. I need to get this thing tore apart because I want to hook up the back brake lines. I can't get the wheel cylinders ordered right away because they come in like 3 or 4 different sizes. So let's go ahead and pop these wheels off. Use the forklift to lift it up because that's much easier. Pull the whole diff cover off, pumpkin out, pull the axles out. We're stripping this thing down because we got new 513 gears and we got an Eaton locker for this as well. We're not messing around. I'm coming back bigger, better, and stronger than last time. Giant things over here. Well, it's been a few years since I've had to tear one of these apart, but how bad can it be? Pull the other side out, and then we'll take the cover off the differential. That's why you leave a bolt in it. Doesn't look too bad in there. So I got the bolts out of both sides of the axles. I believe those should slide out, if I remember correctly. And then we can work on getting the drums off this thing and getting these wheel cylinders pulled out right away, because I need to measure the bore of them. They came with like 7/8, 1 inch, inch and a quarter or something like that. And I want to make sure I get the right ones first time around. Is that? Well, spent $35 on this fancy socket to get this off and wasted 2 hours driving to Des Moines and back. It doesn't work. Good old hammer and chisel, and it's kind of catching it enough to at least spin it off and help me a little bit there. But there we go. I didn't destroy it too bad. It still worked. It'll be alright. I bet this thing weighs 40 pounds. Oh. Measure our diameter of the bore on this wheel cylinder so we get the right ones. Let's go ahead and do that and make trip to O'Reilly's. Oh, that's gonna slide right out. Let's see if I can. Oh, yep. We're gonna knock out some brakes. I have an extended line for back here. Got it bolted to the axle. Now I basically got to run our 3/16 line from our drum to there. And you know, we're using this fancy tool. Absolute lifesaver. This thing makes brakes so easy. You know, working with rusty lines, dreading doing brakes all the time, like I will literally just rip everything out and run new lines because it's so easy and it's just cheap, safe insurance. So you got good working brakes. And it makes an absolute perfect double flare every single time. It's amazing. I got one for 3/16 for running basically all your calipers, drums. Then I have a 1/4 inch one as well for running your main line from basically this all the way up to your proportioning valve. So right now we're going to throw that on the wheel cylinder on the drum back here, route it along the axle up to that, and then from there to there. That will be done, and we can figure out the 1/4 inch line from there all the way up front. I don't know if you guys noticed on the first video, but there was something leaking down underneath the car a lot. And that was because somebody used like one of those compression fittings on the brake line, and it just hasn't sealed up since day one. So this will fix all that. We'll have good working brakes in this thing. So it's finally time we're going to start assembling this axle. I got our shims in there. I'm not going to get too far in depth with how to do this because it's probably wrong, but it's not too bad of a job as long as you have the right tools. Two main tools that you're going to need is a 2 5/16 inch socket. It was giant. And then and you'll also need a bearing removal set, which you can get on Amazon for like almost 300 bucks, or Eaton has a really nice one as well. I lucked out, somebody had one I could borrow, so thank you Quick Performance to that. I have a couple old bearings here that I clearance so that way you can remove them really easy, just for the purpose of getting our shims calculated. And not that it really matters for an application like this. One, because we're doing really short runs. We're not putting enough runtime on this axle for the fluid to even really heat up. If this was going on a daily, where you're going to be driving it every day, putting some serious miles on it, then it'd be important because it's going to have constant use and load under it, and the fluid's going to heat up. But I've never really done it before, so I wanted to learn it, and we're going to do it the right way the first time. So alright, we got that in. We'll go ahead and throw a crush washer on the back side, put the nut on and the yoke, and see where it's at. Alright, so we got the pinion in there. I had to run and buy this inch-pound torque wrench, because basically you want to turn this over and you need to check out the rating, which this is showing around 30. But look at this. This is something, they only had this in 1/4-inch drive. So I got 1/4-inch to 3/8, 3/8 to half, half to 3/4 with the 3/4. So it's showing about 20 on the torque wrench. We kind of want to get that down around 15, because when we put the new bearings and everything in, it's actually going to be a little bit tighter tolerance. Alright, so we threw that thing on there and, you know, kind of wiggled it around, took some measurements, decided if it was good or not, which it turned out to be right within spec. Slapped some paint on this, spun it around with some resistance to check out our pattern. It's looking about right in the middle, which, according to the book, is ideal. I like these guys. They don't tell you it's perfect, they just tell you it's ideal, which I can live with. So now, you gotta tear it all back apart, pull out all the bearings that I sanded down, because we need to be able to remove them if we had to add shims, remove shims, and whatnot. So, remove those bearings, press on the new bearings onto our carrier, reinstall everything, double check everything for the 80th time, torque the caps down, put the cover on, call it a day. Well, after a rough long week of some sickness that hit me and I had absolutely no energy, we're finally back to the limo after a couple days. Last I left off, we buttoned up the rear end, got that all put back together, got the brake lines ran to the front there. I still got to connect it, which that'll take a couple minutes. I went ahead and I pulled the front tires off this. Now we're going to start tearing this one down, so that way we can get the 513s in the front axle. And it's been a while, and in the past, I've always struggled tearing down the front axles and getting the carrier out of those ones. Why it's different in the rear, I don't know. I'm sure depending on your shims and the tolerance and everything, it makes it worse versus every single axle, but hopefully this one comes apart easy. Snap ring. Oh, that's good. Alright, we finally got our carrier removed. I had to use the old towel trick where you put a rag in there and spin it over and it basically just pops the carrier out. Not too bad. Got to go ahead and get these bearings pulled off this one because we're reusing this carrier. Throw new ring gear on it. We got all our shims removed so we can measure those, write those down, figure out what we're going to need for new shims to kind of get us within spec. And we got to clean that out because my dead blow hammer exploded, so now I got BBs all over in the housing. Oops. Got our bearings off. Do the other side. Oh yeah, don't want to lose our shims on that one. Let's see. We got our, I call this the ring side, and then the bolt side just helps me remember for that. Torque those down to 110 foot-pounds. Good to go. Alright, after that we finally got the brake calipers bolted back on. We got our diff cover on. Now we're about to throw some 80-90 weight gear oil in it. Got to do the front axle and the rear, so definitely don't want to forget that because we don't want to run those bearings dry and probably blow them out in a matter of time. Oh, old girl's kind of dirty. I'm going to have to give her a power wash one of these days. So we just finished up bleeding the brakes. Brake pedal seems pretty good. As you might notice, it's sitting over here. Well, I started up and the throttle stuck, but it came to a stop when I shut it off. We also messed with the transfer case because I got that twin stick, and it just didn't seem like it was working properly. It didn't seem like it was in 4 low. It feels a lot torquier that we have the 513 gears under it, but it still didn't seem like it was in 4 low for what it is with that motor and everything else. So I unhooked the linkages and manually shifted the transfer case, and basically both levers got to be pulled back, which during the truck pull I had them forward, which is high range for the both axles. So I was never in 4 low. Granted, I don't even believe the front axle was locked in that day. So now I do have it in 4 low. I still have the hubs unlocked, but check out how easy these tires will spin now. That's 4-low with the rear end locked, 513 gears. This thing spins the tires without even hardly touching the gas. I love it. Can't wait to lock this thing in 4-wheel drive. Now that we got the alternator fixed, it's actually running good. I'm waiting on some new plug wires. Those will be in next week. We're going to throw the hydro assist steering on with a square body gearbox and the PCS hydro assist ram. Everybody was asking what happened at the truck pull. It was the alternator the entire time. The battery barely started the car right before the truck pull. It just didn't have any power to fire all the cylinders. We got that fixed. Obviously you can tell it's running a lot better now, and you can actually give it some gas and floor it. You gotta get the new Holley 750 put on next week, so watch out for that video. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next week.